It's good to see you guys here today. What a beautiful day it is. I want to ask all the kids come forward, sixth grade or younger. Why don't you come up here and just want to ask you a couple of questions. Come on up here. I'll tell you what, 2020 is going to have a lot of changes. It's going to be an important year for us as we have a new website, as we're trying to reach out to the world, while of course not changing our core beliefs. But keep us in your prayers as we're trying to reach out to the world. That's a great passion that we have. All right, guys. What's so special about today? Can anybody tell me what's a little bit more special about today?
Because it is about to be spring a little today.
Spring a little bit today? Okay, yeah.
God, we get to celebrate God.
Amen. That's every Sunday. That's exciting. But what's something big that's going on today? What going to watch? What, John?
Groundhog's Day.
Groundhog's Day. Yeah, good job. Well, that's the answer. All right, you guys can sit down. No, hold on.
The Super Bowl?
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding, sweet. Come on back. I'm sorry. Kids are so little. Yeah, so wait, that's right. There's going to be a Super Bowl tonight. And so how many of you guys are going to watch the Super Bowl?
I am going to watch at home because my mom and dad don't want to watch it here.
Okay. Okay, I didn't have the mic there. It's funny. So there's two teams playing, right? Who can tell me the two teams playing? Stephen?
The terrible 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay, the 49ers and the Chiefs. He said terrible 49ers, so how many of you guys think the 49ers are going to win? Raise your hand. Or you're pulling for the 49ers. Okay, how many of you guys are pulling for the Kansas City Chiefs? All right, more. Okay, well, good. That's interesting. So you want your team to win, don't you? Now, let me ask you this. What is all you guys go to school, what's the best school that you can think of? What's the best school that you go to? Oh, what's the best school?
The school that I go to.
Oh, the one that you go to? Yeah, I kind of gave it away.
Homeschool.
Homeschool, good, yeah.
Troy Christian.
Troy Christian, all right.
Bethel Local Schools.
All right, Bethel, uh-huh.
It's that I get to celebrate God today.
Okay, good. That's always a good go-to answer. Good. That's right. Usually the school that you go to is your favorite, is the best school, right? Homeschool. Now, do you guys have a mascot at your homeschool? No? You need to work on that. That'd be kind of cool. So it's interesting how we all pull for a certain team, isn't it? Now, we do that in a big aspect of life as well, like God's team. You know, we have a God's team. What do you call God's team? Does anybody know what you call the players on God's team? What are they called?
God's children.
God's children. Good. Any other name? Yeah.
Christians.
Christians. Yeah. So Christians are the players on God's team, right? Now, I expect all of you guys grow up to be Christians, right? Don't you want to grow up to be Christians? All right. So it's interesting that this aspect of, what team you pull for is deep inside of us. And so I want you to always pull for God's team, which are the Christians in life. And I know all of you guys want to be Christians when you grow up, and we want that too. We want to help you guys. I'm so glad to talk to you guys. And I guess I won't see you tonight. Okay? All right. You guys can sit back down. All right, good. Thanks. I'll tell you what, we have new mugs now. About every year we get new mugs. So if you want one, you can go back and get one. We got blue and red ones. And the verse I chose here is Revelation 3:15. It's a quote from Jesus. I wish that you were cold or hot. So I figured that'd be a good one that we can give our visitors. And if they ask why, you can tell them. Yeah. And hopefully they see a hot spiritual life in your life as a good example. And so those are back here. Curry can give you one. So glad to be a blessing to you. And I know I have one, and of each one of those mugs have like a little Cassel Hills Museum. The first one, Ben Huber, and as we progressed on. So it's kind of neat. So it's cute having the kids up here, isn't it? You never know what they're going to say, and they're genuine and honest. And if you're like me with kids, you can say, "Now, we don't talk about this outside the home." It's just kind of fun to do that. And so it's interesting. Now, look at that bowl. Isn't that a neat-looking bowl? I'm going to try in a bad way to pronounce this word. Kintsukuroi. And since you probably never hear Japanese, That sounds perfect, doesn't it? And so what that bowl is to repair with gold. The art of repairing pottery with gold or silver, lacquer, and understanding that the piece is more beautiful for having been broken. It's an interesting concept, isn't it? And that piece is more valuable now than if you bought it new because it has that gold. And I think we can all agree that that gold is more valuable than the clay that it's mending. So I just want you to have that in your mind as I discussed this morning. And I wanted to talk about this verse 20 of the passage of last week because it's such an important verse. It needs more attention. So let's read this passage again. Matthew 5, 17 to 20, part of the Sermon on the Mount. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen, will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. Therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commands and teaches others accordingly will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. And so it's such an important passage there that I think it demands and deserves good insight and thought about that. So this idea of righteousness, right? The Pharisees and your lowly common God worshiper both focus on righteousness to be made right with God. Well, the focus is Jesus came to heal. Now, for the Jewish person, say, you came to heal, we're Jewish people. Are you saying that our relationship with God is not good enough? And the answer, no, it's not. Now, that's hard to hear, isn't it? It's hard to hear someone to come and say your relationship with someone isn't what it needs to be. You take that personal. Are you saying that I'm not good enough in my relationship with someone? Correct. Now, in hearing that, that may hurt your relationship with that person. But in essence, that's what we're telling people that don't know God in Jesus. Your relationship with eternity isn't where it needs to be. Now, in a world, in a time that only affirmation is allowed, that can be hard to say. Because really, we're only allowed to affirm people, aren't we? Someone tries to jump from one log to another and doesn't make it, and they hit their eye, they got a bad scar. What's the first thing you say? Good try. Really, we're thinking, that was an epic fail. I'm going to put that on YouTube, yeah? No, but we need to be truthful and honest. He's like, you know what? You can do better. We need to talk about that. And Jesus came to heal our fallen state. Christianity isn't a Band-Aid, but a healing. And really, that's what the world offers is Band-Aids. It doesn't heal the wound. Let's just cover it up. The wound is still there. It's gaping. It's deadly. You're going to die from it. But at least let's put a Band-Aid so we don't have to see it. That's what the world does. All right? Just cover that up. But Jesus comes in and actually heals. He heals the wound. And that's what's so beautiful about Christianity and what makes us different. Because they were slow to give grace to the Pharisees and the scribes, right? They were slow, I think begrudgingly would give grace. And I would say a lot of Jewish people didn't even understand what grace was. You mean I could come all the way to God? Well, that's only for the high priest. And they were right in the Jewish way, for the Holy of Holies. So the Pharisees wanted this power that all the people had to go through them to see how the relationship with God was. Now, some leaders in churches act this way today. You need to come to me for you to check and see how you are with God. And I'll make a judgment call on looking at what you do, whether you are good with God or not. Don't try to make that decision on your own. You're too dumb. You're not good enough. In essence, that's what they say to people. But Jesus came so that we can all have this personal relationship with God, which is amazing. But in God doing that, he reaches out to us and touches us. So our righteousness is to be higher than the bragger's righteousness, okay? That's the Pharisees and scribes, they're braggers. Look at me, look at me. And we're going to look at a passage that really points that out there. So this idea of being forgiven is huge, to be forgiven. And I like this quote, heaven is not for good people, heaven is for forgiven people. Amen? Someone say, oh, so you're a Christian, so you're a good person now. Well, I'm trying to be good. I'm on the path to try to be good. But I'm forgiven. I'm forgiven. That is what separates us from everybody else. I have a grace that covers over my sins. And people that are lost, they don't have that grace through Jesus. And they need us to share that with them. So actually now, we are better than we were before. Like this pot that was broken, we're now better than we were before. Look at Galatians 2:19-21. For through the law, the Old Testament law, I died, this is Paul talking about this here. For through the law, I died to the law so that I might live for God. Okay? I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. I do not set aside the grace of God, for if righteousness could be gained through the law, Christ died for nothing. You could not be saved by following the Old Testament law. You couldn't. The Jewish people, that was not a path for salvation. It's only through Jesus. Even Jewish people from the past, they're saved through Jesus. Their sins were passed forward year after year after year until Jesus could die for them. The same is for us. The same is for all of us. So I have died with Christ. That is a wonderful union. Even though I haven't physically been with Jesus, I've died with him. For those people that have served in the military and unfortunately died, they have died with all people that have served in the military, right? For those of you that have served in the military, you have served with everybody that's ever served in the military, haven't you? You have that bond. Were you Air Force? Were you Marines? You have that bond. Even though you didn't serve together, in a way you did serve together because you served. Likewise, even though we weren't with Jesus when he died, we died to ourselves, and that joined us with Jesus' death, which is such a monumental aspect and thing. So we live by grace and not by man's judgment. And that irritated the Pharisees. They wanted to be able to judge people and say who was saved, who was good, and who was not. They judged people all the time. And that's not the way we live nowadays. Only God is good, and I am with God. That focuses on that forgiven aspect. So when people say, oh, you Christians, you think you're better. No, I'm just with a God who's better. I'm with a God who accepts me through Jesus. Isn't that the key? What does forgiveness mean? Really nothing if we don't get anything for it, right? Forgiveness means that we are allowed to be accepted by God again. Why do you want forgiveness from someone that you've hurt? You want forgiveness from someone that you hurt because you want the relationship to be good again. That's the whole goal for forgiveness, for healing. You getting forgiveness doesn't give you anything in itself, but it heals the relationship. And so God accepts us again. And just like when you see that bowl, you see that bowl right there, what's the first thing that catches your eye? That gray clay? Probably that gold. What healed? What does God see first when he sees us as Christians? Christ. Because he's much more valuable than we are. He sees what heals us first. What's more valuable? He's filled all of our cracks in. And even more so, I want us to look at this passage in Luke 18. It really describes how our righteousness needs to be higher than the Pharisees. Luke 18, 9 through 14. To some who are confident of their own righteousness and look down on everyone else, Jesus told this parable. So some of these guys were listening to Jesus talk. 2 men went up to the temple to pray. One a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. And some of his apostles were tax collectors. The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed, God, I thank you that I am not like other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week and give 1/10 of all I get. Now, have you heard of Christians like this? Does it resemble you in some way? Do you define how good you are as a Christian by how low other people are? It shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way. But the tax collector stood at a distance. He would not even look up to heaven, but beat his chest and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Jesus said, I tell you that this man, rather than the other, went home justified before God. For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and all those who humble themselves will be exalted. So, how does a person's righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees? Humbleness. It's all about humbleness. That's the key here. And so this aspect, here's another one of these pots that was fixed. Now this one's different, isn't it? This one here has a piece that's completely different. It has a piece of another one that was added to it. Apparently a part of that broken pot was so bad, maybe so many pieces, it wasn't even worth bringing back into the new pot. And so Jesus more than healed me, okay? He became a part of me. And I want you to understand this. When Jesus accepted you, your commitment when you got baptized to be part of his church, to be a part of the Christian team, he not only healed all your cracks, but he actually gave you part of himself in the Holy Spirit. Isn't that something? So not only are your broken parts healed, but you have been added part of Jesus Christ himself. Do you feel that? When you're in relationships and you respond in a holy way, higher than yourself, what was that? That was Jesus in you. And so it becomes kind of obvious that you see it yourself, that there's something different in you. Now, people that haven't seen this transition in your life and they just know you as now, they just see you as this pot. So it's on you to explain it to them. Well, I'm a lot different now than I used to be. I used to go out and live for myself. Go to a party, go to a bar, be in a certain relationship. It was really all about me. It was. But now we're different. This pot glorifies, brings focus on to who? The one that healed it. The artisan that cured it. And that's God. Now Jesus is that gold that mends everything, but it's God's plan, isn't it? All of this, all of us, we glorify God. The healing, the new artwork that we are, it praises God because we're much more beautiful now. And it shows how much we need God. Now, I wish I could say once a pot gets fixed up, it never breaks again. It never gets dropped, Nothing ever happens. It's perfect forever. Is that how it is in your life when you became a Christian? Unfortunately, we still get chipped away. We still get dinged up every now and then. So we still need to bring ourselves back to the fixer. We still need to bring ourselves back to God's like, God, here's my broken pieces. What can you do now? I imagine by the time we die and get to heaven, we're all gold. There's probably not much left of all the broken pieces that's been lost. Because, every place where there's gold, there's little pieces that couldn't be put back there. Or you bring in another part. So by the time we get to heaven, we're mostly all glue. God glue. Jesus. There's not much left behind. It's embarrassing to look back and see who we were. It's like, I don't know there's much left of that guy left now. And isn't that good? Isn't that good? That's what we strive for. That's what we go for. Now, I talked about this with the kiddos. I want to talk about it with you. About being a winner. Who wants to be a loser? Raise your hand. Stop it. We want to be a winner, don't we? Look at these guys. Only one of them is going to win the game today. Only one of them. Who's it going to be? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's just a game. Now, when the kids were walking out, Ruben was saying, "Go Niners." He's a San Franciscan, so yeah. And so only one can win. Now look at this passage in 1 Corinthians 9, 24-25. Do you not know that in a race all runners run? So both teams are going to play tonight. But only one gets the prize. Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last. But we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Now these guys, they play to get bragging rights, get a trophy, get some money. But all that fades away, doesn't it? Now we run to get a different prize. We won't play a perfect game. And none of these guys, even the winners, don't play a perfect game. We won't play a perfect game, but we are on the winning team. And just like I talked to them, as long as you're on the winning team, you get the prize, right? Even guys that don't get to play much, but do things, that are on the team, everybody on the team gets a ring at the end. Everyone. Are you on the winning team? Are you seriously committed to the winning team? Now the Pharisees, what they did more than anything, they focused on people's faults, people's wrongs. Oh, this is what you did wrong. God doesn't do that. God focuses on the healing, not the wrong. When he focuses on Jesus, he focuses on the healing property, not all the wrongs that we did. That's different than the Pharisees. When the Pharisee in the parable that I read, he looked down at everybody, didn't he? He looked at the faults. The tax collector beat his chest and focused on God. God, you are so great. I am so bad. See the difference? The Pharisee, the righteous pretender, focused on the bad people. The good, righteous person focuses on God. So when you're focused on the prize, and our prize is God. A relationship with God is the prize. And the good thing is, our eternity with God starts once we've gotten baptized and we start living for God. Your eternity with God doesn't start when you die. You're living it right now as a Christian. Isn't that exciting? You're a winner as soon as you give your life over to God in baptism. You've become a winner. Now, the fun thing is you still get to play in the game. But you just know that you're on the winning team. That gives a little bit of cockiness. All right? And some guys play the game. They think that they're going to win. They're cocky, and they end up really sad when they lose. But we have that hope and the faith that we win. And we have God now, which is so exciting. So our cracks that have been filled in with Jesus, well, other people's cracks are things that they're ashamed of, and they put these Band-Aids, these things to cover them up. We're kind of proud of them. It's like, yep, God healed me there. Those things I used to do bad, God healed me, I'm better. Unfortunately, sometimes I still backslide, but I'm on the right path. Won't you join me? Right? That's our attitude. I'm on the right path. Won't you join me? I'd love to have you to be with me. No? Okay. Well, I'm still going. That's our attitude. That's a good attitude. It's Jesus' attitude. He did that all the time. When he preached and teach and other people go, that's too hard. That's too bad. Let's go. He kept going. That's us, isn't it? Our joy is in Jesus. Our hope is in Jesus. Our healing is Jesus. It's a beautiful story. It's my story. I know it's a story for many of you. I hope it's a story of all of you. But if not, it can be. It can be for sure. All you need to do is come forward, confess Jesus, get baptized, and you have a new life, a better life, the right life you were meant for. Please come forward as we sing this song.